people were really mad about the choice of sponsors that UK Black Pride had brought on. You know, there were comments like, it's disappointing to hear you guys are having Israel supporters as sponsors. In light of the recent genocide, why are you accepting sponsorship from Deloitte, Bloomberg, Gilead, Tesco?
Running any type of Black organisation or business is really bloody hard. One of the biggest issues that Black business owners and people in the Black community who run organisations face is being able to be sustainable. We are deserving of a big festival of that scale with a big stage, great performers, great sound, tents, stalls, access to all the resources that we can imagine, and to meet each other en masse and see ourselves represented at scale.
Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Rigor and flow.
One. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You sound like you're about to deliver the news.
Good afternoon, and I'm here today on GMB Live.
GMB, you know. Oh, God forbid.
I always told you from the day I met you, you will never find me being hot take Tam.
There we go.
Being wheeled out for every commentary on, I don't know, whatever's going on in the world.
There we go. You're the host of Rigor and Flow, and that, I think, is more suited to where you want to be.
Absolutely. And it is the podcast where business meets love.
And culture meets critique.
And you are?
Aiwan.
And of course, I am Tamanda.
There we go.
And that was a new way to introduce today's episode.
Which is about?
Today's episode, it's about Black queer coming of age, isn't it?
It is. And specifically in the context of a really big festival called UK Black Pride. This year marks the 20-year anniversary of UK Black Pride, which was founded in 2005.
And when is it happening this year?
It's happening on the 10th of August at Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park.
Lovely. Are we going to go?
We have to go.
Have to.
We have to be.
Do you know I've never been?
You've never been to a UK Black Pride?
Never been to a UK Black Pride.
Oh, okay, that has to be rectified.
It has to be. It really, really has to be. I've been to other Black Prides, but not like the official national event.
Yeah.
As hosted by Lady Phil and the team.
And the team
volunteers
who
at
are
UK Black Pride.
They are a powerhouse, that
Yeah,
team. They
they
really
are.
are. And obviously Lady Phil is the
An
queen.
icon.
Yeah, she's the queen bee, an icon, a legend. And she is one of the founders of UK Black Pride. She was one of the, as she says, the legendary lesbian women who launched...
Legendary lesbians.
I know.
Yeah.
Who launched launched the event, which is a protest as well.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2005 on Southend-on-Sea beach.
Yes.
Or should I say a beach in Southend-on-Sea.
Yeah. It's so weird that I've not been actually, because I've been in so many Black queer organising spaces where it's like I know the history and I've read about it and heard about so many iterations or people speaking about this famous thing, and I've still somehow just not managed to go.
Well, this year it's going to
changes.
happen. I think it's a really important space. It's a space where, quite similar to Afropunk, which I spoke about in one of our episodes, but it's a space that is dedicated to us as Black queer people of all stripes. It doesn't matter. You could be a corporate banker.
Yeah.
You could be a queer activist.
Yeah.
You could be a reverend in the church. We are all welcome.
Yeah.
And when you enter that space, it is so incredible. Like it's so affirming in the most vital way possible, because you look around and all you see is you. You know?
So when was your first ever one? You sound like a veteran of UK Black Pride.
Yeah, so when I first came out, so I came out back in 2012. 20 years ago. Yeah, so around 2013, sorry. So I came out around 2013. And I was on a journey of just really trying to understand my sexuality. I had just come out of a massive mega church.
Oh, yeah.
Where I had been very embedded in the church. And I was really grappling with my faith and sexuality and really trying to reconcile it.
Yeah, which we talked about on Ep1, right?
Exactly.
Our first ever
episode. Yeah, and that was when I met Reverend G-Day and went to House of Rainbow. And then through that community, I found out about UK Black Pride. So I went to my first Black Pride around that time.
And had you ever heard of it before then, or it took you coming out of the church?
I don't recall ever really knowing about it prior to that point, you know. Obviously, at that point, it would have been going for about 7 or 8 years.
Right, okay.
So I've been to a few of the venues where it's been held. So Vauxhall Park, I went, Haggerston Park.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Queen Elizabeth Park, which is where it currently takes place.
And the largest ever Black Pride
was 2022.
Exactly.
So it is now officially the world's largest Black Pride.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And was that at Queen Elizabeth?
Yeah,
as well,
so interestingly enough, I produced a podcast based on UK Black Pride. It was called the UK Black Pride Time Capsule podcast.
Yep.
I took the sexiest audio van I've ever seen, which was supplied by a good friend, Gavin, from Audio Mango. And that van was nice.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to have to put some in.
Yeah.
But we took an audio van, fully equipped, parked it in the grounds, and spent the day just capturing stories and the atmosphere of the park, and brought people into the van to have conversations about all manner of things. And that was at Queen Elizabeth Park.
Yeah.
And that was also the year that it became the world's largest Black Pride.
Wow.
So we captured that moment in this time capsule podcast.
Yeah, amazing. I think probably shortly, like just after that event, I mean, we knew each other then, and I saw that it was happening, and I really, really wished that I could have gone to that UK
I
Black
invited
Pride.
you.
You did invite me, yes, and then it happened to be the first weekend after I'd just relocated from London to Leeds, and I was just exhausted. I'd relocated in the middle of a heat wave, and I was like, I really want to go, but I just cannot get it together.
It was a hot year. I mean, that was the year where the UK reached 40 degrees.
Yeah, it was. I moved on the day of that heat wave, and you had said, come along, I would like to interview you. And I was just like, I really want to go, but I was exhausted.
Yeah,
So I was like, no, sorry. Amazing. So what, do you have any like memories of the podcast? Any standout?
So many. Because that day, all sorts of people came to our audio van. So we spoke to intergenerational families. We spoke to people about loneliness. We spoke to people about coming of age and how they came of age. We spoke to Reverend G-Day and other religious leaders. We spoke to creatives, entertainment people. We spoke to people from adoption agencies about what it is to adopt and build queer families.
I do remember listening to that and watching back clips of the adoption thing, and then just being like, it sparked something for me of like, oh, this thing maybe is possible.
Yes.
Which was probably a really important pretext for us, and especially the episode we did on raising queer family and having kids.
Exactly.
I needed to see this example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's UK Black Pride. It's a really important space, and I don't feel like we have enough of those spaces. 100%. And obviously UK Black Pride happens once a year, and sometimes the question is, well, what happens the other 364 days of the year?
Yeah,
you know,
because
I don't know that we have enough spaces to congregate and feel at home and be validated and affirmed.
Yeah, and if they exist. They exist amongst smaller networks of people who already know each other quite well. So when you're coming out like you would have been from the church, they're really quite hard to find.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Would you be open? We're talking about coming of age this time. So do you have any clips that you could share from
the podcast? So one of the interviews that hit me the hardest is one of those ones where after the interview, I had to kind of sit back and just take a breather.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was with a person called Simi. And their background sort of matches my background in some ways as a Nigerian, but a bit younger than me. And I'll just play you the clip. Okay. And I'd like to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
On that. So this is Simi.
My name is Simi.
And then thinking about who you choose to surround yourself with, what's your process then for deciding who you surround yourself with?
Originally, I had a lot of Caucasians around me, like in terms of where I grew up, how I grew up. But in my immediate family, there's, I'm Nigerian. I grew up Nigerian. When I was really young, it was mostly Nigerians. But once I entered the school, it was a lot more of a Caucasian environment. And being an other, I think the only time I ever knew I was an other is in primary school, when I left that immediate environment of who my family surrounded themselves with. And to enter that space, I felt the need to conform. And I was one of those, not late bloomers, I say like in my early 20s, when most people usually come out. Well, I sort of figured out, oh, I'm lesbian. And it was that. It wasn't, oh, maybe I'm bi. It was, I like women. Because previous to that, it was, oh, maybe I'm asexual. Because, so in that sense, I'd had to sort of look for people, look for my people to surround myself with. That's, Nigerians or, Africans in general. And just sort of look for queer Africans or queer Black British people to be around. And at first that wasn't that easy. It was more like, talking to people. It's like, oh, are you? It's like, what do you like? that those sort of questions, and looking online and having to be careful because online is not a safe space either.
I could go a lot of places. I think I want to come back to what you were saying about being Nigerian.
Yeah.
Because my experience, I'm Nigerian as well.
Yeah, hello.
So, hi, how you doing?
Good.
I grew up in a Nigerian household, and obviously you know what that entails in terms of attitudes towards sexuality, but then there's also the religious component. I don't know if your family are Christian or Muslim.
They are extremely Christian, Catholic.
Yeah, my family is like extremely Pentecostal.
Brilliant.
And I think navigating culture, religion and sexuality has been an additional thing in addition to the other trifecta that we just spoke to.
Thing.
Do you know what I mean? So I wondered, like, what were your experiences growing up? Were you born in Nigeria and raised there?
I was born here.
You were born here. Have you ever lived in Nigeria?
No. So yes. So the way I grew up, I thought was very normal, but obviously learned once I entered primary school that is not the norm. So I grew up between here, Nigeria, and Italy.
Oh wow.
So we were very traveled. I did have a Nigerian background, like growing up, very Nigerian, but also strangely open.
Okay.
It was also confusing because my family is open about some things, but not about others. So sexuality is one
that they're open about, or
they're not open about. They're not open about, and it's been a struggle with my parents, especially, to say this is what I like, this is who I am, and get the are you sure it's not just a phase situation. And also, I don't know if you're aware, but a lot of Nigerian kids who've grown up abroad sometimes come out to their parents and get taken to Nigeria. And that thing of like, you're going on vacation, but it's not really a vacation because you're there and that's it, and they leave you there to get right or find yourself, that kind of situation. So I'm always careful about how I present to my parents. Thankfully my siblings are not that way.
Right.
They're very open and they're very supportive. But having that Nigerian background and growing up in a strongly Catholic household is extremely frustrating. And also it's painful. I don't know if you found that. It's painful.
Extremely. I mean, I remember, this isn't about me, but
yes, of course.
Sitting down with my sisters, my younger sisters, and them literally telling me that if I were to get married, they wouldn't be there because they don't want to be seen to endorse, my sexuality. It's painful. It took me a little while to get over that. You know what I mean? So thinking of your family and I guess the wounds that they've inflicted, whether knowingly or unknowingly, who do you want to apologise to, and what does that apology look like?
I would like to apologise to my mother.
You would want to apologise to her, or you'd want her to apologise to you?
I would like to apologise to her, and I do want her to apologise to me. I feel like I have not challenged her. I have not challenged her to look at me fully. And then I haven't given her the opportunity to see me and then make her decision. So can I be that upset with her? Maybe. Am I too forgiving? Maybe. And I would like her to apologize to me. She has done for certain things, because, you know, Beach Your Kids is alive and well in Nigeria. Sometimes I think us as Nigerians have a collective trauma about how we grew up. You know, sometimes you're sitting around with your cousins like, oh, you're going to get beat. What did you do? Oh, wait till your mum finds out. But actually, looking at it as an older person, you're like, fuck, that wasn't right. You know, someone comes to school looking like, you know, looking a certain way, and you're like, ooh, and you start laughing at them. But you know what they've been through. And now you look at it as a person, as you're older, and you're like, whoa, that wasn't right. You know, and she has apologized for that, because my siblings and I, there's like a big gap between me and my brother, and then the youngest two, and the way they grew up is extremely different. So they weren't, you know, beat as much as I was, and the difference is extremely clear. You can see it, the way they interact with her as opposed to the way I interact with her. There are things I can't say to her that I see my siblings go, no, Mum, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, deep, I can't say that to you. You know, so, yeah, there's apologizing to be done on both ends. Funny enough, my father, Yoruba man that he is, would love me no matter what. I know that I could say to him tomorrow that, you know, and I have said to him, he's like, I like women. And he just paused and he was like, you know, it's whatever, you're my child, and you're my child, and you're my child. And he said it 3 times, and I felt it in my soul. So yeah, I think there's apologizing to be done on both sides.
Okay, you're having a reaction to that.
I'm having the reaction to that I had the first time I listened to it, actually. I remember it now. It's been a while since I heard it, but I remember listening to that. I can't remember whether it was on one of the episodes. And I guess... Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay.
Fine. I don't know, there's so much. I wanted to have an intellectual response at one point earlier on, but I think fundamentally it just shows how important having those spaces is.
Yeah.
You know, having the fact that you and this person, Simi, could have this conversation about this shared cultural experience and the family situation that you both find yourselves in. It would be really, as Simi said at the beginning, when they were first coming to terms with their sexuality, all they could find was other Caucasian people, white people who had that identity. To then find a sibling from the same cultural background who understands the nuances of what it is in your family is kind of a huge deal.
Yes.
And there's something about how important that acceptance from their father is, that you're my child and you're my child and you're my child, that
hit me
everybody
hard.
yearns for, you know?
Yeah. Because I heard her say that and I was like, nobody said that to me.
Yeah. And that's partly, I think,
I've
why
been
I'm
navigating it alone, you know?
Yeah. I'm grieving for you because, you know, that's me listening to you as my wife before we ever got married, when that was still a question mark in your mind, before our relationship had even formed.
Yeah.
In its, like, had a chance to cement.
Yes.
And I hear the pain for you.
Yeah. Because, you know, at that point, my family had said that to me about not attending my wedding, actually back in 2018. And obviously 4 years later in 2022, I was still thinking about that and really thinking to myself, will they actually follow through? Or is it just something they said in the moment? Only to find in 2024, 2 years later, when I did get married, that they actually meant it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just see this like, I was really thinking about this thing. This thing really affected me more than I realized.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm glad I had that conversation. And I really felt a strong affinity with Simi. When we said we were going to do this episode, I immediately knew the clip I wanted to pull out.
Yeah.
And that it had to be Simi.
Yeah, and
so
you didn't
people
tell
can hear
me.
her voice. I didn't.
And I remember listening to it at the time and grieving for you.
Yeah.
Even in an early stage of our relationship.
Yeah.
And I feel maybe even more strongly now because we've been on that path. And I just wonder how it is for you to hear it now from this after it's all played out?
You know what, it's so interesting. It still hits just as hard as having the conversation live and direct in the van back in 2022. It still feels relevant. So when I was coming up with the idea for the podcast, the one thing that kept coming back to me was, I don't want a future generation, a young, queer Nigerian kid, to have to grapple and wrestle with the same things I did. And so wouldn't it be cool to have a time capsule podcast that contains all of the knowledge from all of the different sectors of the community, answering all the difficult questions in a time capsule that they can listen to and have the answers that they need sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And so that's what this was. It's a time capsule of that moment.
And what's been done with it? How will that future generation access it?
Well, we actually were going to bury a copy at Olympic Park, but that didn't happen for a whole bunch of reasons. But now it's digital. That's the beautiful thing of making stuff in this day and age, is that it very rarely dies.
Yeah, there's a digital archive. It's just about it being discovered or known.
Precisely. And so I think it's alive by us talking about it on this episode, on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's alive through the people who've encountered it, who were on it. It's alive because UK Black Pride have a copy of it to do with as they please. And it's there, you know? And I hope that they find it in some way or the other. But I'm going to always keep referring back to it and talking about it.
It's such important work, and I'm just grateful to you and the team at UK Black Pride for like going to this effort, and the people who helped get like the van together and all of that, but going to this effort to document our stories, because even, you know, not everything changes over the night. The next generation will have another struggle. But if it makes somebody feel less alone, if it makes someone feel seen, if it gives them access to something that you might have needed when you were figuring all that stuff out, or trying to figure out how do you move forward in love without the support of your family, which is a horrible position no one should be in.
Really horrible.
He is someone who survived it.
Yes.
And still came to Pride and had a party.
Yes. And that's the beautiful thing about podcasting. It's so intimate.
Yeah.
So when you listen to it, it has that intimacy. Even her response about, you know, apologizing to her mum.
That bit, because I first thought, what have you got to apologize about?
Yeah.
And then she said, I haven't shown you all of who I am.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and it made me feel so many mixed things, because I was like, you know, we're going back to our first episode where I was trying to encourage you, just invite your family.
Yep.
Because then they can't say they weren't invited and you've shown them all of who you are.
Yep.
And I thought that would be the best thing. And yet it just brought you more hurt.
That's the thing.
So it's like it's such a no-win in a way.
Absolutely.
You know, it was painful because I'm listening to someone apologize for something that you may show all of yourself. It doesn't mean the people around you are ready for it.
And sometimes they can be very hostile and violent as a result of you showing yourself. Like we spoke about the honor-based killings.
Yeah.
Against LGBTQ plus
South Asian people. Been researched.
Yeah. So it's a tricky one. But I'm glad that I had the conversation with all the people. I mean, I spoke to so many people. Some interviews were just hilarious.
Yeah.
Some were just chaotic, like utterly chaotic. There's some great sound bites. You can actually hear a bit of the festival in the background, because obviously the van isn't soundproof. And that's what I liked about it. You kind of get the essence of the festival in the background, but the intimacy of the van. And then there's moments where we go out into the field and it's just madness and mayhem. But it's so much fun.
Chaotic.
There's one guy, I think he was called Jamie, and he was just like, just be yourself. And he's just like letting rip. And it's just hilarious. There's loads of little interludes. I kind of built it like the albums of my childhood. Like back in the day in the 90s, when you would get an album, there'd be the songs, 3-4 minutes long. Yeah. Then there'd be interludes.
Like Lauryn Hill's interludes, or even Slim Shady's album.
Love. How do you spell that? Love. love.
I love
What does
the
that mean?
interludes.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, I kind of want this to be like that. You've got the
Love. Do you remember that
a
when he goes on
birthday goes and goes. But I want it to be like that. So you've got the main interviews and interspersed is interludes taken from the actual festival, like little soundscapes that are very much so you almost
capturing
feel
the
like
atmosphere and the essence and the energy of this thing for that generation.
For those who can't go, because there'll be loads of people who can't go, even though they want to go, you know?
And people even on the, I mean, it's world famous,
Yes.
especially now it's got so big.
Absolutely.
People on the continent who would dream of a time when an event like this will be possible, who would be listening to that and just being like, wow. And of course, they're doing their own thing, sometimes under very hostile conditions and therefore underground. But you know, these networks, knowing other siblings across the world are doing this stuff matters, you know?
1000%. Hey, don't just watch and bounce.
Yeah, please consider subscribing. Tap the button below so you never miss out.
We really hope that you find the conversations challenging, thought-provoking, and maybe even inspiring.
And if you know anyone who you think would also like this podcast, please do consider sharing, because every share really does help us grow.
Thanks so much for subscribing. We really appreciate your support.
Thank you. Like I said, I've never been to a UK Black Pride, but my early period of coming out was like I would describe it as like a second adolescence.
Yeah, I would say that. Absolutely.
Did you have that experience as well?
Oh, absolutely. Because it was like I'd been playing this straight game.
So boring.
So, yeah, very definitely boring for me. And then I came out and I was like, okay, guys, what's out there?
Okay.
Let's get stuck in.
Oh no, you seem excited. Like,
oh, no,
that was
I was
not my experience. I was like tortured, dark night of the soul, Saturn returns.
Oh, I did that in the church.
Oh, you did that inside the church?
Yeah.
Okay.
They made me fast and pray for 40 days and 40 nights to not be gay.
What?
Yeah. So I'd done my tortured dark night of the soul. This was daylight of the spirit.
That is 40 days and 40 nights.
It's not
like
a joke. 8
conversion
weeks.
therapy type stuff.
Essentially, yeah.
Just coming back to Simi real quick, the other thing that stood out to me was they talked about sometimes Nigerian parents, when they find out that you're queer, they think it's just a phase. And if they don't think it is, they take you back to Nigeria and say it's a holiday and then just leave you there.
Yes.
Hoping you'll grow out of it or be whipped into shape.
I was going to say more whipped into shape.
Precisely. But I just, you know, I don't know why I've never thought about it before. I was like, oh, that is our cultural version of conversion therapy.
Yeah.
So when you talk about 40 days and 40 nights of fasting and praying not to be gay, it's like the equivalent, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It feels to me like very oppressive and abusive.
It is. Because sometimes the methods used in conversion therapy are, frankly, violent.
Of course they are. How can they? You're trying to make someone other than they are. But you were talking about coming of age and being excited, essentially.
Yeah.
So when you came out of the church, it was like, was UK Black Pride part of you discovering how to be queer? Did you just dive in? How was your second adolescence?
Yeah, well, I think for me, obviously I'm a nerd, technological nerd. So I went straight to the internet and specifically straight to YouTube.
Oh, okay.
And on YouTube, I found a whole world of Black queer greatness.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. There were so many YouTubers who just gave an insight into the day-to-day of being a Black, in this case, lesbian person, right? Most of them were African-American.
Yeah.
In fact, all of them were African-American. That was just who I encountered at that time. And there was King Kells and Miami.
Who are these, like influencers?
Yeah, I guess you could say early influencers.
Okay.
Because obviously this was back then. So yeah,
That's
early
true,
influencers.
2012-ish.
Yeah, they weren't called influencers. There was no such thing. They were just YouTubers. Essentially, you know, but who had large followings. And they did things like, vlogs about their daily lives and their daily lives and the things that they were encountering, people they were dating, how they navigated coming out, first relationships, sex, all of that stuff. And then there was Amber's Closet.
Wait, okay, I need you to break down. So you've
Okay.
said, I don't know any of these people.
So you've got King Kells.
King Kells, who's, okay, give me.
So
what's
King Kells
Who or what is King Kells?
So King Kells, very masc,
Okay.
but also very femme in a way. Like she had this long hair, but then she speaks and her voice is, in Ma Walker's terminology, strong.
Deep.
Yes.
Okay. Ooh.
You know what I mean? And it
Okay.
had a power and an
Gravitas.
authority. Yeah, gravitas to it.
Okay.
But then on top of that, they were like a dancer.
Oh.
But a kind of like they could do like pole dancing and like really sexual dancing. You know, like when you invite like a stripper to your party, for example. You've seen those scenes where like
Oh,
there's a
yeah,
stripper
yeah, yeah.
and they do all those sexual moves.
Oh, like when they
The
gyrate.
gyrating
Oh,
on the person and they flip people around and stuff like that. So King Kells is an actual
almost
dancer.
like lap dancing.
Yeah, like lap dancing.
meets pole dancing meets stripper.
Stripper, yeah.
Okay.
So King Kells had like a side career where they go to events and they do that. So they bring women on stage and they would flip them upside down, put them up, one leg here, one leg there, and just gyrating and really sexual. Very athletic. 'Cause to do that,
American, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
American,
where in
African
America?
American. I think at Atlanta,
Sounds-
because that's
sounds
the home
very Atlanta.
of it's the home of like black queer. It's a black queer mecca,
Okay.
basically, and it became one of the places that I was like, I am going to spend time in Atlanta, which I did because I have family there. So
Okay.
I made that dream come true very quickly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, so there was King Kells, then King Kells' friend, Miami,
Okay.
who was kind of, they looked mixed race, like maybe half Latino, half black. And they were more masc as well.
Okay.
But in a more stereotypical way.
Okay.
So,
Meaning?
as in like they dressed masc, they weren't like a dancer or anything like that.
Yeah.
There was no real femme there. They were just Miami,
Yeah.
just butch. Yeah, exactly. And so between the two of them, they would have some of the most raunchiest conversations about everything. Like the
They
details.
got away with that on YouTube.
Yeah, they
Were
would
they
talk about.
explicit?
Yeah, they would. They would talk about like, sex and what they used, the kind of toys that they would use,
Wow.
the things they'd get their girlfriends to do. And it was when I look back on it, it was a bit patriarchal because they were always talking about it as masc people with femme girlfriends and the things their femme girlfriends would do to them, for them, or whatever in the bedroom. And they spoke about coming out, their day-to-day lives, the places that they would go. And it was just a peek into maybe potentially what my life could be if I wanted to go down that path. Then you had Amber's closet. Amber is mixed race, I think half African-American, half white. I would say, and this is where I started to learn certain terminology.
Okay.
Oh my God, this is where I learned terms like studs,
Okay.
AGs, stems,
Wait.
and femmes.
Wait. Okay, wait. I know femmes. Studs, I kind of know. Okay, studs, AGs, what?
Stems
Stems and femmes.
and femmes.
Break it down. Me, I haven't lived that world.
Listen, I had to learn all of this terminology. So a stud
Okay.
is like a masc presenting person.
Right.
In essence, they're kind of a dyke, but
Okay.
it's like the black version of a dyke. Bit more swag,
Yeah.
quite butch, and do you know what I mean? But very swaggy. Almost modeled on the hip hop, the rappers of like the mid-90s, early 2000s.
I have, there's an Instagram account dedicated to black studs. So I have
Oh,
an
is there?
aesthetic in my head. Yeah, because I think they once tried to follow me.
Oh, they did.
No, it's like a studs elevating
Hello.
studs in America. American studs. I feel like it's called studs right now or something.
Was it an ethnographic
I was obviously
research?
only there because I was doing research.
But yeah,
So I know the aesthetic, basically.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you've got femmes.
Okay.
And then a stem is someone who's a mix between a stud and a femme.
Oh,
Do you see
it
what I
makes
mean?
sense.
Yes.
So I like that. So they're not fitting into
The binary.
any of the binary. I love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I love STEM things. I apart from STEM science.
You did not
I
just say
did
STEM science.
Science, technology,
In a
engineering,
discussion.
and maths. I'm a researcher. No, but seriously, I realised that I like STEMness.
Oh, you do?
I like
Okay.
a blend of, in terms of my, it took me a long time to figure this out.
Yeah.
But I like I guess when I've been attracted to men, they've often had a quite femme quality to them.
Yeah.
When I've attracted to people who identify as a woman, they often have a quite masc quality to them.
Yeah.
And I like the kind of playing with gender scripts. I just find it very, I think, intellectually interesting.
Yeah.
And being a demisexual, I think I find that appealing. Like, why should everybody be confined to boxing?
Absolutely. What's a demisexual again?
People who are like interested in they need to be intellectually stimulated before they can find like they can be stimulated in other ways, basically.
Okay,
that's just taking a turn.
Listen, we're going there because
so if you're into STEM and you are a STEM, you're for me. Which is basically you're into STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths. You're really nerdy.
I am hugely
and
nerdy.
You're not like you've got some kind of mask, but you also don't go down the like studs. You tell me like you wouldn't mind wearing a kilt, for example.
Oh, I'd love to wear a kilt.
And I know men wear kilts, but you talk about like aesthetics that blend both. So.
Yeah, and I feel like I heard all of these terminologies, and the last one was AGs, which is basically short for aggressives. And these are they're like the hardcore version of studs. It can be almost quite violent. They're quite, it's very patriarchal, but the not nice side of patriarchy. So I didn't like that part. There was a whole documentary on them, and I think it was called AGs.
Okay, so you learned about this from one of those YouTubers, or
what
was the
just in general? It was just in general. I was searching to understand what it meant to be LGBTQ plus, and specifically a Black woman who is LGBTQ plus. So I was looking for answers, and I just encountered lots of stuff, documentaries about us,
AGs,
and then of course my YouTubers and so on. So, but what I discovered is that I don't like any of the labels.
Yeah.
Because what I found as I started dating is that the women that I was dating would just automatically refer to me as a stud because of the way I presented.
Yeah.
And I would always resist it and say, I'm not a stud, because I don't even like what the term represents. Because if you think about stud and you think about that within maleness or masculinity, it's kind of like the worst form of masculinity, one of the worst forms, because what you're saying is you're only there to fuck and run.
Oh, so it's got fuckboy connotations.
I'm just talking about what a stud means. If we say that guy is a bit of a stud,
okay, yeah.
He's just a bit of a player.
Yeah.
He doesn't treat women particularly well.
Yeah.
Women are just there to be used. And then he moves on. And in a group of men, he's the dominant one who dominates everything and is a bit of a douche.
Yeah, so it's like you've got this queer identity, and now you're suddenly recreating all these patriarchal ideas. So that's why you resisted it.
Yeah,
somehow.
But also, I'm a woman.
Yeah.
I'm a woman who loves women. I'm not trying to be like a man or to do things how men do them or replicate some of these patriarchal things at all. Do you know what I mean? I just want to love a woman and be loved by a woman. And that's it. I don't want to be confined to any of these boxes, particularly if they, for me, feel too limiting and negative in some ways.
Yeah. This is what I meant when I said in an earlier episode, I think it was the last one, we were talking about the definition of queer, that there can be a part of the queer community which is literally like the cult of queer, and you're policed into these new boxes when you've tried to escape the whole box of cis heterosexual relationships, and you're just like, what have I come into? And it's when you're coming of age, it can be an absolute minefield. So I'm not surprised you had to go to YouTube to make sense of this world and all its language, but also who you are and where you fit in it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a minefield, but it was a kind of cool as well, because I learned so much, and it was comforting, because in those times, a bit like listening back to the UK Black Pride clip, there was something about them when new episodes were released. It was like I'd just sink into them, and it felt like friends. It felt like friends who understood me and understood what I was going through, who were showing me what life could be like. And they were funny and they were crazy at times, and they just had this kind of life that I could find some similarities with because of our shared heritage and culture and so on and so forth. So they were really important for me in that coming of age that happened a lot later in my life than most people have a coming of age.
So what would you say is the most valuable or important, I'm almost scared to ask this question, thing that you learnt from those three influences?
I would say seeing them in conversation with their partners helped me to understand communication in a relationship in a weird way. Because if you think about it, prior to that, I'm raised in a church that's very hardline about sex and relationships, which is namely keep your legs closed and don't do anything until God says that that's your partner, and then you marry them as quickly as you can, and then off you go. And nobody really talks about any of the details of any of that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, communication or sexual relationships or navigating or reaching a compromise in certain areas of your life. They don't talk about any of that. This was the first time I was seeing people having open, honest conversations about all aspects of having a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think I needed that.
Yeah.
I think even if I was straight, it would have been pretty useful.
I was just thinking, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. Was there a sex? I mean, obviously there's a relationship dimension and good communication helps the sex. But was there a sex dimension to the learning? Because you said they were quite graphic.
There was a lot of sex stuff going on in there.
Did it help you?
Oh, yeah. It really did. It taught me so much, you know, about the kind of toys that people were using, and, you know, that's where I first learned about things like, so some of them wore chest binders, and I'd never heard of that.
Okay.
Some of the more hardcore, like studs and AGs had ways to pack down there to make it look like they had a bit of a package.
Wow, they're really wording patriarchy up, weren't they? They were
really
like reinforcing.
Some of them even had a thing to attach so that you could go into a bathroom and pee in a
like
urinal.
A shiwi.
Oh, it's like shiwi.
Well,
Okay.
shiwis do people take to like Glastonbury,
Oh.
but it's like almost like a shiwi for going to the bathroom. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
I guess so. You know, they taught all about the technicalities, and then I had to sift through all of that and work out what do I want to do with all of that. And I think I found
You
out
didn't want a shiwi.
I didn't want a shiwi. I didn't want to pack things down there to make it look like I had a bulge, and I didn't want to do chest binding. Partly because I did the research and realized that it can actually cause a lot of damage. Like people could even
health-wise.
end up with like broken ribs and stuff from using a chest binder. And I was like, no. And also I kind of love my boobs.
Yeah, well, you did start by saying I'm a woman who loves women. So obviously you weren't feeling with like any gender dysmorphia or anything
and people
like that.
do, and I completely respect it.
Yeah.
You know, and I completely understand where that comes from. It just wasn't
your experience.
You know.
Yeah, of
but
course.
other things, I was like, yeah, I like that. I'd go and look up all the, you know, straps and things like that and work it all out. I don't know how graphic we could go on this show.
I don't know either. We might edit this out.
We'll probably end up getting cancelled by YouTube and pulled for.
It's true. But well, how did those guys do it?
YouTube was a different place back then. Remember this? We're talking like 10, 12 years ago.
Okay, wow.
It was a different place. YouTube was so open and very unregulated and unpoliced.
Ah, interesting. What a fascinating coming of age that you had through YouTube.
It was a crazy, tumultuous and beautiful coming of age. And I'm so grateful, honestly, if Kinkel's, Miami, Amber's Closet is out there.
Are you shouting them out?
No, I'm saying to them, like, thank you.
Okay.
Like, I'm so grateful. It was so, so helpful. And the reason why I've done the UK Black Pride time capsule is so that someone in 20 years' time can have the same experience with that I had with you guys.
I also thank you for different reasons. I am glad she was able to learn through yourself. Thanks.
Learn at the feet of my elders.
Excellent.
So we've talked about my chaotic and very sexual coming of age through my wonderful YouTubers. What was your coming of age like? How did you sort of come into your understanding of your queerness? Or who helped or facilitated that?
A lot of people as it happens, but very differently from you.
Okay.
I mean, so let's just rewind a bit, which is that I had a very tortured coming of age.
Oh, tortured?
It was, like you said, yours happened in the church, right?
That's true.
Whereas mine happened in the context of a heterosexual marriage. And differently, it wasn't just like I'm coming out to be lesbian. Unlike you and Simi, it was like I am coming out first into bisexuality because well, I kind of still somehow identify that. I don't like the labels, whatever. I was coming to terms with my sexuality while in a marriage where you would have been in a church. And I was in therapy, and I guess I had a self-imposed prison, and it was really torturous. What does this mean? Do I stay in this relationship? Do I not? Am I trying to leave this because I'm actually queer, or because the relationship fundamentally isn't working? What's really, really going on here?
Yeah.
And that felt really difficult because you care about the person that you're with. You want to honor that, but you also want to honor yourself and who you are. And then there were fundamental issues. It was just very, very hard for me to fully unpack and make sense of. And it was a lot. When I did eventually make my way out of it, I think I've said this before, but my therapist, who was on that journey with me, when I came out, she was like, congratulations, you should be so happy. And I think she wanted me to go out into the world with the excitement I heard in your voice when you said
and find
you
your
came
own
out.
King Kels.
Yeah. Whereas that was not what I was ready for. I was like, I have no idea how to be this new person that I've acknowledged that I am. Also, I should say that my total acceptance of my identity came... I had this elevated experience taking a drug that's often used in a therapeutic setting to open your mind. And I had this blissful sense of who I was. And I was just like in this experience with two white queer friends. And I was like, by the way, guys, just to let you know, I'm queer. And they were like, we knew it.
It's so funny how everyone knows.
Except you.
Except you.
And I was like, yes, here I am. So happy. Of course, I love that. I see the oneness of life, and I see the oneness of who I am, and da da da. The trouble was that after that elevated experience, I came down, and I wasn't ready to hold my queerness with such bliss. Oh. But my friends who had received my declaration hadn't realized that I wasn't going to be ready on the other side.
Okay.
And so one of them, I suppose, outed me to a very close friend of ours, mutual friend. And I was just like, what? I was not ready for this. I was still in a marriage. So what was I going to do? And it took me a lot of time. I mean, I had to deal with that relationship ethically and properly first before I could ever explore who I was. So there was that small matter of getting a divorce. And then once I was finally through that, I just hadn't dated in 10 years. So even that was like a second adolescence. The world of dating had completely changed. You had apps that didn't exist before. And then am I supposed to choose man and women, people of all sexualities? To be honest, it was mind-blowing for me.
Yeah.
So contrary to you, what I did with that was to go into loads of what we called cutie BIPOC spaces. So queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, and people of colour spaces.
Yes.
They were really, really important for me because up until the point of coming out, I had mostly had white queer friends. And if I'm completely honest, I could not relate to white queerness.
It's a different experience.
It's
a different experience.
I loved my friends who were white and queer, but there was something, especially because most of my white queer friends were more activisty. They were also poly. They were also building co-ops. They were also doing all of these things that I respected, but I was just like, I don't understand this, because even though I grew up in culture where everything was community oriented, it didn't look or sound like this. So I couldn't relate to that model of community, right? There's a whole longer set of stories and talking about it and politics to it when community happened in some of those white spaces, which it just doesn't happen back home. The community is self-evident. It's taken for granted. It doesn't need to be given this long narrative as a pushback against something mainstream, because it is the norm, right? And I was just like, I don't get this very intellectual thing. But then weirdly, I needed all this intellectual stuff to explain my queerness. And so I went to spiritual Black queer groups. Like one was Radical Dharma, which was influenced by 3 Black academics in the States, one of whom is a spiritual teacher called Lama Rod Owens.
Okay, I've heard of Lama Rod.
Yeah, exactly, Lama Rod. And he came over to the UK and held Buddhist retreats in a Sangha silent retreats where you'd also interrupt the silence to talk about race and white supremacy within Buddhist spiritual settings. Obviously, this was very comfortable and safe for me because I love to intellectualize. So that was like me getting used to being around Black queers.
Oh, so it was definitely queer specific.
Oh, yeah,
Those spaces with Lama Rod.
Yeah, we had a separate group of Black queers, black and people of color queers that we
Is
created.
Lama Rod queer?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's
okay.
and Black and a Buddhist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we had our own circle of groups, which Lama Rod came to visit with us, and we had like dinner and stuff. But then on top of that, he came and held retreats in these very white Buddhist sanghas. Like how it's just our world of.
What's a sangha?
It's a meditation retreat setting.
Okay.
It's like a place of worship almost, or a spiritual place.
Okay.
To go and practice your Buddhist meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think partly I went to those because staying in my head was somehow safe and comfortable for me.
Okay.
I didn't have to do anything that was uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And
which is fitting.
It's very me, isn't it?
Yeah, when I think about you as a researcher and a doctor, I'm like, it makes sense. If you'd have said to me, yeah, I came out and I just went out and I just shagged anything that would move,
no.
I'd be like, then who are you now? You know, whereas that is actually quite comforting to me because I'm like, that's true to form. I know this person.
Yeah,
I feel like I definitely know this person.
That's literally, and that was the thing that I found hard with my white queer friends were so sexually liberated. And I was just like, it was like my adolescence the first time in Northern Ireland as a heterosexual. The girls I'd go to school with, it was like an episode of Derry Girls, and it would be like, do you want to get off with him? Like literally, did you let him finger you on the back garden? And it was like genuinely, and I was just like, yo, this is not me.
It's
this is
too
not
much.
for me. When it was the heterosexual version, I was just like, nope, that's not me. I don't even know this guy. Like, why would I be doing that? And then it was like, you're an adult, you're supposed to know this thing. And obviously I didn't have any idea what it would be like to be in an intimate relationship. And also that's just like not my personality.
Oh, Lord. So you're intellectualizing and researching and hanging around in sanghas. How did you move into learning about the intimate parts of things and getting to the juicy bits?
Listen.
And the lights have gone low.
Lights have gone low. It's like...
I love that.
Dark
I think
and
we should
dirty.
stay in this
keep it?
space.
Okay, let's stay.
Because it's intimate.
It's intimate.
And we're about to talk about those things.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, everyone. But nothing weird's going to happen.
At all. It might.
No, it won't.
Okay.
It will not. So how... I also did it very intellectually.
Oh,
so there were two
God.
things. I needed to get comfortable. Okay?
Yes.
Two things. The first thing was Cindy Gallop, very well known in the women's entrepreneur space, has a website called Make Love Not Porn.
Okay.
It's not for queer people only, but it's standing against some of the oppressive stuff that happens within the making of porn. The whole premise of it is that you have people create content and you normalize just normal sex, not this weird stuff that happens in porn.
Yeah.
And you have all types of relationships reflected there, and people contribute to the content and you can also consume it, but it's all ethical and freely done.
How do they make sure that it's ethically and freely done? How does that work?
They have a whole process and framework which you can read about on the website to get into the details of it. But apart from the fact, yeah, of course, even people could be coerced into making it.
Yeah.
That is a thing, but I presume they have some sort of vetting process.
Okay.
Anyway, I did start to see same-sex relationships reflected on there. And I was like, oh, that's a way for me to engage with this thing in a way that doesn't feel weird. Mm-hmm. And it definitely didn't seem, I mean, I can't be sure, but it seemed like everything was kind of above board. And I was like, oh, so now I have a model for this thing. Because the other thing is, anytime same-sex relationships are talked about in the mainstream, they're so often for men's fantasies. They're
Absolutely.
a patriarchal fantasy.
Yeah.
So I just had no interest in any of that. Mm-hmm. And so the ethics of it made it accessible for me.
Right.
To consider, what might this look like for me? I guess it's the same thing you were doing with your influencers in a way. Mm-hmm. I was looking for an example or a way to understand this thing that felt aligned with who I am.
Yes.
And then there was another thing which was really interesting, which is in the middle of the pandemic, there was a person I know called Beck Tom, who I discovered online, who runs something called Quintimacy. And it's about queer intimacy, learning, challenges, working through. So this is a sexological body worker who actually specifically focuses on support for queer communities.
Okay.
And they had set up something called queer sex circles, which sounds raunchy. It's not what you think. It was basically...
I was hoping it was going to be raunchy.
No, I know you were. We're different
Nothing
human
is
beings.
raunchy right now.
I'm sorry.
I want raunch.
No, there is no raunchiness.
Okay.
These queer sex circles were a space to come together weekly in a program with a group of people who wanted to talk about sex. And it was basically the sex and relationship education for queer people that we should all be getting in schools. It was really good. It talked about like how sex and gender identities function. It talked about the biological side of it, chromosomes. It talked about gender identity as a social thing. And then people could come in and bring whatever their experience was to this facilitated discussion.
So this was in person?
No, online during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Which again became a safe space for me to consider these things. But also, I mean, I learned so much from so many people who went. We used creativity, we used poetry, we used readings. And you had people who had gone through medical transition, trans people, who had to consider all these things that I hadn't considered before, like how to come to terms with their new body. You've got a whole different body to then navigate and learn in this thing. And I was so in my head about the idea of having intimate experiences at the time that it suddenly made me realize, like, oh goodness, so many of us are struggling with a version of this, even those who look like they have it together. And most of the people in that space would never have predicted I had the problems or insecurities or concerns I had and the baggage I had brought to that group. Okay. So it was just a very affirming, very supportive space, and ultimately gave me the confidence to then go out and date a whole range of people. I think heterosexual people would have learned a lot because the emphasis on ethics, consent, we did things around the power and consent wheel. We did things about being able to communicate what you like. Everybody needs to learn that stuff. And I found it so helpful, so powerful. And like, I feel like it should be in the sex and relationship education curriculum.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Because I definitely didn't encounter any of that.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't. None of that.
You encountered AGs.
I encountered AGs who were definitely aggressive and definitely weren't asking consent or anything like that. And obviously the conversations around consent and stuff have come a long way in the last few years. But I knew instinctively that I didn't like what they were putting out. I knew that wasn't me. Like, I was just like, I can't. I'm a bit of a good church girl.
Yeah,
you know what I
the
mean?
church girl excitement you may have, but not.
Yeah, but not, I don't know, respect is important to me. Caring for people is important to me. Understanding their wishes and what they want is really important to me. So the AG thing was too much. But I think that kind of education in quintimacy could have been very, very useful at a time like that, I think.
Yeah, and if you look at what healthy models of masculinity, healthy models of sex and relationship, they're needed more than ever.
Yes.
You know, there are young people being exposed to porn at ridiculous levels and adult content at ridiculous levels.
That part.
Being exposed to incels and red pill bros who are not promoting healthy models of sexuality.
At all.
So everybody needs this stuff.
Yes, and it should be in the curriculum, like you say.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So it sounds like we had these two very different second adolescences.
Hugely different.
And coming of ages. But there is one thing in common, which is we both seem to need Black queer spaces very much.
Definitely.
Yeah, just a place to be seen and affirmed. So as we head into what will be the 20th UK Black Pride, I feel what it highlights is the importance of sustaining these movements.
Yes.
And these spaces. And actually, gearing up to recording this episode, I was looking back at UK Black Pride's Instagram page and their promotion from last year. And I was reminded that just a matter of days before last year's event, they had to post a statement because there had been these massive racist riots. Do you remember of last summer?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you were in Jamaica actually recording
was.
Hidden Histories with
Yes.
Nova Reed, weren't you?
Yeah.
But it was obviously a really tumultuous time for the Black community and for racially minoritized people all round. And they obviously felt it really important that they needed to reassure the people who were attending the event about what was going on. And then on top of that, we were in the midst of watching unfold before our eyes this horrendous genocide in Palestine, really.
Yes, that's true.
So it was like really quite a context for them to be making this statement in. And what I noticed was what I saw last year, all these comments under their posts. Did you see any of that?
I
we had a
vaguely
conversation.
remember. I think I was so deep in production, and when I'm in production, it's almost like tunnel vision, where I'm just nose to the grindstone. I don't really pay too much attention to what's going on around me or in the world, or certainly on social media.
Yeah. You don't have the bandwidth. And also you came
Exactly.
off Instagram because mental health. For
Exactly,
exactly the
that
same
part.
reason. But anyway, just to give you a flavour, they had put out this statement saying, look, we're reassuring you, we're working with security, we're working with everyone in order to ensure that this event goes down without a hitch. I'm going to get my laptop so I can actually get the statements up, actually.
Okay.
Because it was really interesting just seeing the sheer number of responses. But anyway, they say, in light of these riots and threats across the UK, we know many of you will be concerned about the event this Sunday, and we want you to know about the measures we're putting in place. Safety is a priority. We're working with, and this is their words, partners, security, and other agencies to ensure everyone feels safe. And most of the responses, of course, were like super positive, but then there were like this bracket of 3 types of responses. So the first set of responses that were more critical or concerned came from people who were concerned about their safety, saying, you know, it's really important that we're not just feeling safe, but we are safe and that we're physically protected. Please tell us the specifics of how you're going to manage the safety of the Black and racially minoritized people going.
Okay.
So that was fine. That was like fully understandable. But then we got into what often happens in activist communities, which was this extra layer of stuff about Black communities and their relationship with police. So one person was like, what's sad is that the people here have had to say other agencies instead of police, because as Black and or queer people, we would not be necessarily reassured by police presence. So I was like, oh, wow, okay. So that
Which
was
is true.
understandable.
It is true.
Yeah, so what's your take on it?
As in, the Black community has always had a bit of a fractious relationship with the police in the UK. Mm-hmm. That's just something that's always been known. If you then add in being LGBTQ plus, you know, let's say you're a trans woman, for example, a Black trans woman.
Yep.
The relationship there is even worse. Mm-hmm. So I do understand people saying, you know, what agencies, let's
completely.
be clear to make sure that we actually are going to be safe rather than having fire on top of fire.
100%. And, you know, just a couple of episodes ago, we talked about negligence as one of the ways that systems cause harm to LGBT communities, and the same with Black communities. Mm-hmm. So you've got, you know, all these intersecting identities struggling with that. So again, legitimate, but obviously it became like very, very vexed. So I understood all of that. And then there was another set of comments that happened on this same statement, which was people were really mad about the choice of sponsors that UK Black Pride had brought on.
Okay.
You know, there were comments like, it's disappointing to hear you guys are having Israel supporters as sponsors. In light of the recent genocide, why are you accepting sponsorship from Deloitte, Bloomberg, Gilead, Tesco, et cetera, really, really quite critical. In one post, it was an accusation that UK Black Pride was pinkwashing.
Pinkwashing?
Yeah. So tell me why you're saying it like that.
Okay.
There's a lot to get into in this.
There is a lot to get into. Yeah. One of the issues with running any... Were you going to say something?
I was going to say that, do we need to explain what pinkwashing is? Because there might be people who don't.
Okay, yeah, explain what pinkwashing is, because I've definitely got some thoughts on this.
So pinkwashing is basically also called rainbow washing sometimes, but it's like a way of saying that people are supporting the LGBT plus community because they have an ulterior motive. So they want to benefit in some way or earn money from an association with LGBT people.
Which does happen, and it definitely
massively
hence
happens.
the term. It definitely happens. Pinkwashing exists. People have always wanted to curry favor with whoever the latest shiny new thing or group is. That's always been a thing, right? And I'm sure there are people who want to do that and who want to be aligned with UK Black Pride, particularly during the 2020 period, when the summer of 2020, when Black Lives Matter was a big thing. I can imagine lots of people were like, yeah, let's throw some money at UK Black Pride. I can imagine that to be the case. What I don't think is that is the case broadly for UK Black Pride.
Absolutely
I don't
not.
believe that to be the case.
No, so there are legitimate questions to be asked about sponsorship from my point of view.
Yes.
No doubt about that, And I say that as someone who grew up neighbouring an apartheid state where we know that boycotts of particular brands and companies and economic interests were critical
Absolutely.
to ending an apartheid,
Yes.
right? However, to accuse a bunch of people who have had to struggle to survive in this country, who are themselves LGBTQ plus, of pinkwashing was wild. Maybe some of the sponsors, I haven't looked into it in enough detail, but I just thought that was really interesting because I think even if there was a legitimate critique to be made, how are you going to go about it? Like, I feel like, I don't know whether there was an internal conversation, but I just thought it was interesting. And then it was followed also by another comment from a white person. I don't know how they identified, but they kind of chime in and say, disappointed about your position on sponsorship. Okay, fair. But then I'm white and not allowed rightly to criticize. It is still a disappointment though. No pride in genocide. And I'm just like, why are you not allowed to criticize because you're white? There was so many levels of just wild, almost weaponizing that somehow.
Do you know what, right? In our episode on domestic violence in LGBTQ plus relationships, you spoke about an acronym called DAVO, and the R and the V stood for
Reverse victim,
where in your case, it was like a darker skinned working class person saying to you that you as a lighter skinned middle class person were doing harm to them, even though it was very clear that they were doing harm to you.
Yeah.
And that just feels like that.
It feels a bit like a silencing,
Yes.
claim that you're silenced. Well, you obviously, how are you going to say I'm not allowed to rightly criticize while criticizing? Like,
Yeah.
do you not understand
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was like, I feel like there was probably a conversation, there always is, about where we spend money, who we accept money from, blah,
Yes.
blah, blah. But it was just, the point I'm going to get to with this, and then the next set of comments, which were not about the sponsorship, but they were from community members saying, I still feel like this should be a free ticketed event. Those who follow this page and similar should be able to attend at no cost, and this will prevent random drunkards from walking in and coming in. It was just this weird comment about we should be able to have free tickets.
It is free.
It is free.
UK Black Pride is a free event.
Exactly. So the point I was making is not that some of these critiques weren't valid, but just the sheer amount of pressure that a Black volunteer-led organisation is under to meet all these needs.
And you can't.
And to keep the thing sustainable in a context where you're already not necessarily backed. And then on top of that, to have almost like a purity politics on every sort of thing. And then to also somehow make it free, as if a massive event attended by how many?
Over 20,000.
Exactly. Doesn't cost money to put on. Was just wild. I think the level of thought, complexity and politics that are involved in an event like this are huge.
Yeah.
And some of the politics can both undermine the possibility of it being sustainable.
Well, yeah. We in one of our episodes, we spoke about being Black in the investment space, and Black business owners get something like 0.0006% of all VC funding. In that case, I think it was in America, right? So you can imagine it's even less here in the UK because we're so much smaller. So I'm like, if that's the case for getting investment into our businesses, how else is UK Black Pride supposed to sustain itself? Because they can't just go out and get an investor. It's a free event.
Yeah. So then
You're
should
not
they
getting
charge?
should they charge to
In
make
which
money? Because that's what
case-
Coachella does.
Yeah.
That's what Reading Festival does. What Leeds Festival is. What Glastonbury does. They charge.
Yeah. In which case it then becomes difficult to access for many of the people who most need it and
Yep.
who can't afford to.
Yep.
Or do you accept sponsors? And of course, there's a balance to be found about how, there's like this almost this purity politics in capitalism. And it's
Yeah.
like, which brand in this world, which human being in this world
Yeah.
is completely pure?
Exactly.
And I'm not trying to make that like, now you've got a moralism that you can just, anything goes.
No, not that. But
we have to have ways.
it's balances, man. It's balances sometimes in life. Nothing is black and white. It really is shades of grey, whether you like it or not. It really, really is. And I think sometimes some of the idealism that I see in some of these comments, for me, feels. I'm going to leave it at that.
I don't know that I find it idealism, actually. I find it about, so often there's a shaming and a judgmentalism that's just, so if we stop everything or if there's no sponsorship, how do you think this event is going to run?
Well, it will be one of those small community events, right? In a community centre somewhere where everyone brings a little dish and it's like 20 people
The events
turn
I
up.
went to.
Yeah, they're very small events, which are quite easy to sustain-ish, although very often they aren't sustained because they haven't got the money to keep going because nobody's paying to turn up, and how you're going to promote it and so on and so forth, because you kind of need capital to do those things. So that's what it would be without it.
Yeah.
I personally think that as Black queer people in the UK, we are deserving of a big festival of that scale with a big stage, great performers, great sound, tents, stalls, access to all the resources that we can imagine, and to meet each other en masse and see ourselves represented at scale. We definitely deserve that.
We deserve that. And also, all of us, because we care, deserve to have sponsors that also want to live in a world that's just as well.
Exactly.
So that's the ideal scenario.
Yeah.
And that's obviously what we would advocate for. But I just, I think what I wish for is that when these things come up, we can find ways to have productive conversations about them and what criteria we select.
Rather than the
sponsors
judging
by.
and shaming
Yeah,
that
I
seems
think
to happen.
That's the thing that's really challenging.
Because actually, in none of those comments did I hear what a brilliant, beautiful, wonderful celebration of Black queer bodies in the middle of London.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not
they were
hearing
there.
that.
I didn't pull
they
them
were.
out.
Okay.
But they were there from the supporters. But
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it's not fair to say people shouldn't publicly display their displeasure, but it's interesting when it's happening for a small setup. It's not like the system.
Yeah.
And
I think it's their right to say the things that they want to say, but also when you're saying these things, also acknowledge how difficult it is and how few of these spaces exist at this scale every single year for 20 years.
Yeah, and stop shouting from the sidelines. Come in and offer to help.
Offer to help.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Offer to help renegotiate. Bring in new sponsors, particularly if you are someone who has a level of privilege.
There you go. Find us those pure sponsors who don't have any genocide in their history.
Who
have that level of money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That isn't rooted in slavery and whatever it is. And again, I'm not saying that to excuse, but what I'm saying is that if you know who these companies are that can afford to fund a protest, a festival of this scale, then I think you should reach out and connect the team with those sponsors.
Yeah. If you have better ideas,
Put your money where your
let us
mouth
know.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, simple.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I know some people won't agree, and then probably people will say things, but then that's the right that we all have to say things.
That's true. That is absolutely the case. That was quite a charged way to finish up, because the point
there was laughter, there was sex, there was crying, there was protest, and you sort yourselves out and you find a sponsor.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop criticizing.
Yeah. Well, criticize, but come with solutions if you're going to.
Exactly. That's the thing, isn't it? Say the problem, but also come with a couple solutions.
Don't stand on the sidelines claiming you're an oppressed white man or white person. Sorry, I don't know how they identify. Anyway.
That's the end of the episode, and it was good.
It was. It was good to hear about your coming of age.
Oh, absolutely. And I think to end out this episode, this UK Black Pride Time Capsule podcast was for the young queer kid in the future who might need a conversation, like the conversations that I was able to listen to with the YouTubers when I came out during my second adolescence. And so I kind of want to end this episode with a couple of clips of the messages that some of our interviewees gave to that future queer kid who might find that time capsule and listen.
I love it. This was one of my favourite episodes.
And it was episode 8, and we'll leave you with that. The immersive field recordings that were captured around the grounds of the UK Black Pride Festival were recorded by Toby Adebajo. Here's their message to you.
My name is Toby. My pronouns are they or Toby. I was the sound recordist for the field recordings that you hear around the grounds of the UK Black Pride 2022. And my message to you: don't let anyone shame you out of your joy. You are welcome. Never stop asking questions. Your questions and your curiosities are important. Your voice is important. Your visions are necessary. And you are loved just by being who you are.
My name's Meg, and if there's a young queer kid growing up and they're not knowing how to navigate relationships and love, it's understand the first love of your life is yourself. It's the first, because I'm telling you, when you've got love within yourself, you can give it freely, without any kind of fear. So I'm like, spend that time to just do the things that you like. Find out what you're good at. Invest. Don't waste your time following what your friends like or what like. If you like to play football, if you like to make music, if you like to read books, if you like to write, do that and become good at it.
Dear future queer kid, I am a queer person from Nigeria. Yes, we exist. My name is Adedamola. I volunteer for the community engagement team at UK Black Pride, and I'm also the production assistant here at II Studios. You do not need anyone's permission to be here, to live here, or to dream here. And even if you were the only queer person in the entire world, your existence would be enough. You would still be deserving of love and breath and the opportunity to make your dreams come true. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I love you.